Okay, we are live, and we're just going to take a second here and get things kind of set up. We are at the Retail Global Conference, and I ran into Chad Rubin from Skubana. Hey, Chad.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining.
And Chad asked me some really interesting questions about Feedback Genius and about his account, and he agreed to share his account and for us to do kind of a live demo walkthrough of his account where he can kind of ask me questions of what he should or shouldn't be doing. I can make some recommendations of ways to optimize the account, right? That's kind of what the goal was.
Yeah, so for me, I was looking at my feedback. We used to actually have a lot stronger feedback. And for me, feedback and looking at my feedback on a 30-day period versus my competitors, I get to see how well we're doing in terms of order volume versus our competitors. I've just seen that our feedback has been low, especially since Amazon changed some of their policies with opt-in.
Right. And so what I'm doing here with Chad is something I do with clients on a semi-regular basis. And we're just recording it. Like, that's the biggest difference. So we're going to try to get to people's comments if they leave them. But we're really going to focus on kind of the account part of this. So we'll be kind of keeping an eye on the comments as they come through. But so please go ahead and add them if you have any. And now we'll kind of jump into things. So Chad, the first question I have for you is, what is your goal? Is your goal seller feedback or is your goal product reviews?
My goal more so is product reviews.
Okay.
I just wanted to see how we can improve our seller feedback. But if you want to go into product reviews and improving that as well, I'm game.
Okay. So typically what I like to do is figure out what your goal is, because as a seller, you want to have your message have one particular goal. And so if you have multiple goals, then it's harder to accomplish both of them. And so there's three goals you can have. One is you can go for seller feedback, and that's it. One is you can go for product reviews, and that's it. The other is you can go for seller feedback and use that as a way to filter out and then kind of push those people that leave seller feedback harder to leave product reviews.
Got it. So for me, seller feedback as a private labeler, because I'm not sharing the buy box with anybody, is just a vanity metric.
Yep.
So I would prefer to focus on product reviews of my own product.
Awesome. Great. So we're looking in Chad's account now. And, feel free to just stop me and ask questions that you have. So this is kind of a summary. And you notice that within your summary, we're not seeing anything for negative reviews in the past week, which is good. That means that you haven't gotten any immediate notifications, and you're not seeing anything under reviews.
This is feedback for a seller right here, negative reviews?
Right. So negative reviews on the top is feedback for product reviews that are negative.
That's shocking.
The reason why you're not seeing this is because you haven't set up any product review monitoring. Okay. So with your Feedback Genius account, you actually get 2 free ASINs, and then I could actually make money on this call, and I can upsell you to get more. Right.
Okay.
And so
if it's valuable, let's do it.
So here's what and I have your account pulled up, your Amazon account. So we're going to look here, and what we want to do is go in and just what's one of your high velocity products?
High velocity products. Let's just, I don't know, if just on a rating basis, let's just pull this one right here, the shark.
Okay. So we'll look at this product, and we're going to take the ASIN from this product. And we're going to add that in here and do a search. We're going to find the product, and we're going to add it. And what you can do for this is you can actually create what's called a short name. And then we're going to track the product as well. So that's kind of the first critical part is tracking. So we wanted to call it the Shark Navigation Lift Away Vacuum.
It's a filter, but yeah.
Okay.
I want to say hello to Quiet Tip and Al, Karen and Judy. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the compliment on our jackets. We actually did not coordinate that today.
Okay, so we've set the short name. We're going to save that. The reason why we want a short name is that when you are in your emails, you'll see that you have a variable for the name. And the name that's going to show up right now is this whole thing.
That's long.
And so that's going to kind of junk up your email when people see that. And when you add a short name, then the only thing that's going to show up is going to be the short name.
So that name would show up in the email itself.
In the email itself, okay, right? And so that's going to set up product review monitoring. And then if you wanted to add more, you would come into your account, you would go into settings, and you would go into subscription, and you would change your plan. Actually, I'm not going to go this deep because I don't want to go into your personal information. So you would go into your plan, and you would select to add more product reviews, and you buy them in bundles of 10, 25, 50, 100. And so I would recommend you 80-20 your products, and you just do the reviews on your high velocity products.
So you do it based on units or revenue?
It's based on SKU. Product review monitoring is based on SKU.
Right, but I'm saying 80-20. I mean, I look at the 80% of SKUs generate 20% of our revenue, or 80% of our SKUs generate.
I would do sales velocity.
Okay.
Sales units, because that's the ones that are going to get the most emails.
Got it.
Right. And so that's what you want to be, what you want to be monitoring. So now you'll start to see the information is going to start to populate, because now we have review summaries. You're now can be set up to get review notifications if you get a low review, and you can start adding and getting more kind of transparency into people leaving bad reviews.
And that'll show my average reviews. This box right here will show average.
Correct. It's going to take a little time for it to start pulling all the data in. Okay. So that's kind of the first thing I saw in your account.
Okay.
The second thing that I saw in your account is that we're going to come into here, and actually I'm going to come into here, the sent items. And here is where I can kind of see all of the emails that you've sent to your clients. And remember, these go through the buyer messaging system. So it's not tied to their personal email. It's tied to the Amazon email, and which makes it all, terms of service compliant. And the first thing that jumps out at me is that your subject line is like literally the same for everything, right? And so that gives me kind of an indication of an area of potential for you to improve. The other thing that I look at is I look at your feedback. And when I look at your feedback, I can do a filter. And so I'm going to filter for 3 stars or below. Now, this is seller feedback, not product reviews, but you have several people who are complaining in seller feedback that they've had some kind of issue. And so these are all things that you could set up as notifications to be going to your customer service department.
How do I do that?
It's probably already set up.
So I have a team of VAs that are doing this, and their job is to reach out, get negative feedback removed.
So they are, it's going to your support at, and it's going, it's coming, negative email format is coming from the buyer.
Yep.
And that's giving them so one thing you may want to do is auto blacklist people who leave negative feedback. So if somebody leaves negative feedback, you don't want to message them again in the future. So we can turn that on.
Okay.
It's a good little feature.
Great.
Kind of keep yourself, if they left negative feedback, why do you want to ask them for a review? And then obviously when you're looking at your feedback, anything that is negative allows you to also handle it from the customer service department, right? And if this is, do you do merchant fulfilled or all FBA? Or
we're doing FBA, and then we fulfill out of our own warehouse.
Okay, so you have a 3PL. And so obviously if these are Amazon issues, you can get even the seller feedback removed through the normal process. If it's your own shipping, then you can't, right? Like that's
unless it doesn't comply with
Amazon's terms.
Yes.
Yeah. So the next thing that I want to look at is I want to actually look at your I want to look at all of yours, and I start to see that you have a lot of people who are actually right. So you had one person who will never buy from you. Well, here's somebody that will buy from you, right? They say thank you.
Yep.
You have an opportunity when somebody leaves you a 5-star review to actually create a message directly to that person and say, hey, you've left me seller feedback. Would you consider leaving a product review?
Okay.
So that's a special filter that we
have.
And
you can do that you can automate that through feedback channels.
We're going to automate that. Yeah. So now that I've identified a couple of things within your account, so I've identified that you have an opportunity with people who are leaving seller feedback. I've identified that you have some negative reviews that we may want to just change to tweaking. And I saw your subject lines, right, as kind of key areas that we want to look at. And
my goal is product reviews.
So your goal is product reviews. Yeah. And what I tell people about subject line is is that a subject line that would cause you to open the message, right? I saw one other area for optimization for you.
So, real quick, what do you recommend for the subject line? What have you seen doing this for such a long time you'd recommend in terms of copy?
Yeah, so my recommendation is that you create an email workflow, right? We're both internet marketers, and we use a lot of email workflows to communicate with you guys, right? And what you want to do is that same process, right? So you want to start a conversation with them based on the product that they bought. You want to give them information. And then once you've given them information, you want to ask them to help you out. And so I don't want to come out on day one and just say, so what do you think? I want to say, you've ordered our coffee filter. Here's a guide to brewing the perfect cup of coffee.
And can you give them an attachment
Yes, and create a PDF attachment, or I know you have like those K-cups that are refillable K-cups. I've owned those. They're a pain in the butt to clean, right? Is there a certain way that you clean them? Are they dishwasher safe? So maybe you create a document on caring for your refillable K-cup. And so this really comes down to your content team looking at your products, because you have a lot of SKUs.
Yep, 950 private label SKUs.
Right. And so you might be able to bulk all of your vacuum filters as the same message, right?
Can I offer them a warranty?
So you can offer them a warranty, but you cannot ask them to email you outside. Like if you have a warranty in your packaging, you can remind them in the email that there's a warranty. Okay. But you cannot entice them to leave the email and go to your website to register for it.
Got it. Okay.
Right? So that's a fine line, right? But you're allowed to offer warranties and.
But would you walk that fine line with warranties, or would you more focus on product guides and?
So what I would do is I would take let's take your vacuum filters, right? Because that's a category.
Yep.
I would take your vacuum filters and I would say, what are the 3 pain points to someone who buys a vacuum filter? And my first message would be addressing those pain points, preferably with some type of PDF attachment. And so you're really just giving without asking for anything in return.
Installation guide.
Installation.
So it doesn't apply to every filter, so I'd have to do a different one for each filter.
What about a cleaning guide? Right? Isn't there certain ways to clean them so that they have longer use?
It's a good
right?
idea. I like it.
I have a HEPA filter on mine, so I deal with that.
Most of our filters are washable, reusable, so we can have directions on how to wash and reuse your filter.
Right, and so then your subject line could be something like your guide to longevity with your filter, or something like that. Something that if they read, they're going to get value from. So therefore, they want to read it because and maybe what you do is you create like an IKEA type flyer that's like, this is our installation guide, and we have and it's the installation guide for every filter you have, and it just tells them, pick your filter here and go to page 5, pick your filter here and go to page 10, and then you don't have to have 10 different PDFs or 200 different PDFs, right? And so you can kind of make that choice of what works best for your business. Sure. But what you're trying to do is give that customer value. And by giving that customer value, you create a relationship where when you send the next message, they actually want to communicate with you. Because I don't know about you, but I get a lot of emails on a daily basis. Yeah. And when you're getting a lot of emails, you got to cut through the noise. And so that's what's really critical, is making sure that it's a message that's going to cut through the noise. And if I've spent money on a filter or on coffee or I don't know all of your products, but I know those are 2 of your bigger ones. Those are things that I might have a desire to want to understand what I just bought and how I'm supposed to use it and stuff like that.
And we can do a test on like the top 10 products, start there, and then.
Yeah, that's always what I recommend, is that you start with a certain number of ASINs and then you kind of grow from there with the number of ASINs that you're looking for. Okay. So let me show you a couple of other things that I've kind of recognized within your account.
Okay.
So you have a lot of paused messages, which there's nothing wrong with. We're going to actually just look at your active messages. So Seller Labs and Feedback Genius more particularly, it sends your messages based on your trigger, okay? And so you have multiple different trigger dates at 2 days, 5 days, 7 days. excuse me, the message that concerns me within this setup is your general feedback. Okay. So your general feedback email is your catch-all. And here's how I saw that. I went into here and I went into edit. And when I looked at all of your different messages, this is what I saw as kind of your catch-all that's in here. Your other messages all have ASINs attached to them. So you're sending a specific message based on the product that you're selling. Okay. We have slow internet here at the conference. So
is it loading? Spinning wheel of death.
Of course. Isn't that the truth?
Oh, someone said here, Scott, what about adding video link to a how-to video that's on YouTube with your first email?
Okay, so that's a really good idea. But it's I need to log back into the account. So I'm going to just do it over here where I'm not in the screen. Just verify that I'm not in the screen there.
Yep.
Don't want anyone to see our logins. So I don't recommend that you actually do that for anything that is going to a YouTube video. What you should do is load that video to an S3 bucket, which is an Amazon page, and then you can do that. When you're in if you're sending it to a YouTube, then you're actually sending the traffic off of Amazon, which is a violation of what Amazon wants you to be doing.
So I can take the video, upload it to Amazon AWS?
It's called an S3 bucket. It's where Amazon stores their videos.
Okay.
And then you can actually link to it. There.
And that's completely within the TOS.
That's within the TOS because you're not linking them off of Amazon. Okay, and that's what you want to be doing is keeping them in the Amazon ecosystem. You can embed videos into your messages. It's not highly recommended, just because it's been seen that performance with videos and a lot of graphics actually degrade the attention that you get from your customer. You think it gets better, but it actually doesn't. Okay, so we're in here. This is where you would change your subject line, and this is your message. Now, in your message, you are asking them specifically, you're thanking them. Here's what we're talking about, your product name, right? You would actually...
That's the short product name?
So you would actually change that to...
You can change it here on the fly, it's fine.
Yeah, so the product name is gonna default to the short product name based on... And these are all the different links that you can put into your account. But since you have a short product name already defined, when that's defined, it will use the short. But you can tell that if it's not defined, you're going to get this big, long string of 200 characters thrown in there.
So that's right there. Product name will give you the short name that I put in there.
The short,
and
right.
If there isn't a short name, it goes to the default.
Then it goes to the default one,
okay,
right?
Great.
So
this would be a long product name.
This is your default one, right? This is kind of your catch-all. And I could tell that over here within your detail page, because you have no SKUs or ASINs associated to it. And that means that for all the other emails that you're setting up, if you have a new ASIN that comes in, they're going to get this message. The issue is that with your account, the issue is, I'm going to see if I can open this in a... Oh, sorry. This is the tab I want. The issue is that when you're... Okay, we're in the active messages. So the capsules are going to go out on day 4, and then the general feedback is going to also go out on day 5. So you're actually emailing them on day 4, the specific one on the capsules, and then a day later you're sending them the generic one. So what you want to do is you want to line up your trigger dates, and you want to kind of build this out again like a workflow and say, these are all the messages I want to send on the second day after delivery. These are all the messages I want to send on the 5th day after delivery, and bucket all of your messages so that the send dates remain consistent, so that if you have a generic message, it's being overridden by the specific messages that you're sending. Okay. So
Should I even have that feedback email if my focus is product reviews?
So you call it feedback, but you're actually asking for a product review if you look in the message. So my recommendation would be to change this to 2 days after delivery.
So change the general feedback to 2 days after delivery.
Let's go ahead and do it, right? You said let's just
do you like the email copy or the actual long copy in the email? Do you like that?
So I think this copy is okay. And for a generic one, I think it's okay. As you get more specific, that's when you want to get more specific into the content that you're providing. But this is your catch-all for 950 ASINs, so it has to remain relatively generic, right? I would put a name on here, even if you want to keep the company. People like to do business with people, not just companies.
You can put my name on there, CEO.
So you can say Chad, Think Crucial, just leave it like that. I would change this to delivery on 2 days.
Now you receive it 2 days after it was delivered. Okay.
2 days after it was delivered. And because you have FBA, we actually track that directly to the tracking information to know that the product was physically delivered.
Yep.
And then this says only if the delivery takes less than 10 days. And God help me, I think all the deliveries are going to be less than 10 days. But you may even want to narrow that down and say only if the delivery takes less than 4 days. And so maybe if you're doing a merchant fulfilled order and the order is going from New York to California, although I think you have more than one 3PL, right? You have 2 locations.
I've got one 3PL in the US, one in Ireland.
Okay. So if you have one, and from your 3PL in the US, can you get to most of the states within 3 days?
It's max of 5.
Max of 5. Okay, so let's set this at 4. People that it takes 5 days might not have as great of an experience.
Is it 4 business days?
It's 4 business days, yeah. And then we're going to hit done. And so we've made that change. And I would probably go into this one too and change this one to 2 days.
And I don't love the copy and the general feedback. That I just looked at it. And
that's not you, right?
Yeah.
Like I think you have a personality, your brands have a personality, and your emails should have that personality.
It has to reflect that.
Yeah. And maybe you want a generic one for all of your vacuum stuff, and you want a generic one for all of your coffee stuff.
To make it more fun.
To make it more fun, right. That's something that you may...
Like, hey, vacuum's really stuck. Hopefully this email doesn't, and hopefully your experience with us hasn't stuck. Whatever.
Right, exactly. You can kind of... Yes, that's very Chad.
Yes.
See, that's it. You got to bring your personality into this. And it takes a little bit of time because my guess is you're like a lot of sellers, right? You set this account up however long ago. I mean, it looks like your team's made some modifications.
I have not looked at this in like 6 years.
Right. So they've made some modifications, but they haven't really made a lot. So that's where the bulk of your work is going to come, is in this message and setting this up. Now, I did notice that when I look at your blacklist, okay. So your blacklist is people who have unsubscribed from your email. I noticed that you haven't had unsubscribes in 3 months. To me, that's telling me that you guys are not creating what's called an auto blacklist. And so this goes to the question that you asked me when we started, which was Amazon made some changes to their terms of service. Based on the changes to their terms of service, less of your emails are getting through to your customers. Yeah. And when your emails when your emails do not get through to your customers, you get an email from Amazon that says this customer could not receive this email. Yeah. We have the ability within here. So this is a custom email. If anybody else uses it, they're going to send to your blacklist. It's a custom email. And that is what you can set up as an auto blacklist, right? And so the auto blacklist is a feature that we have. We have a full video here. I'm not going to play it now. That tells you how to set it up so that when the message is going from your Gmail or wherever it is, you can auto forward it to that email address that we got. We take the order ID out of the email and we add it to your blacklist for you. And so if somebody gets bounced on day one, you're not going to subsequently send them the second or the third or the fourth follow-up email.
That's to prevent emails coming in.
Yeah, it's going to prevent workflow on your side, and it's going to reduce the number of emails that you're sending, and it's going to stop you from sending messages to people that you know don't want them anyway.
Got it.
Yeah. Now, the other issue that you brought up, was with regards to less emails getting through, right? And we are seeing, and it varies by account. We're seeing accounts that are seeing 30 to 40% of their emails bounce, and we're seeing accounts that are seeing higher than that.
Do you have those details to show me?
The number, well, so we can't see the number that bounced until you set up the auto redirect. Okay, so once you set up that auto redirect with the blacklist, then we see, because we get no notification that the bounce occurred. When you set up the auto blacklist, we can start to see the bounces occurring, and we can actually do the analytics to start figuring that out. The thing that I tell sellers is, I mean, you run a website, right? On your website, you give people the ability to log in and get emails from you.
Yes, opt-in.
Do you know what your percentage of opt-in is?
That's a good question.
It's pretty low, right?
Yeah, it's probably 1 out of every 10.
Right. So 10%.
Yeah.
That's pretty typical across the board for the last 20 years. That is a rule that all Amazon sellers had to follow. I'm sorry. That is a rule that all e-commerce sellers had to follow. But Amazon never followed that rule, right? Amazon never had a system in place to allow buyers to opt out of messages from us. And so we were able to freely message them.
Now, as someone that was looking at my account ahead of you mentioned brackets.
Yes.
Can you just touch on that real quick so that we can put that to bed?
Yeah. So when you get the message, see if it's in here to see.
I want to say hello to Jared King for joining. What's up? Thanks for the shout out.
So in the email that you get from Amazon, what they tell you is that you can, if you have a message that you need to send a user and it's critical, okay, and they define critical as non-marketing, non-promotional, critical to the process of the product. So even asking for a review is not considered critical.
How about instruction manual? So
instruction manual could be considered critical because it's critical to the use of the product. The question that I think you have to ask yourself is as I read that content, do I want to take that risk? Is that something I am comfortable doing with my account, right? And so what I would say is that I would interpret that email from Amazon in the most conservative way possible, because I don't think Amazon has a lot of wiggle room in how they're looking at that. And I think in other things that they do, they have a lot of wiggle room. And so if you're trying to split hairs in the language of that and saying this might work, this may not work,
it's gray.
It's gray, and you might get yourself in trouble. And because Amazon has come out so hard, I really believe that they're not going to have a tolerance within that.
And just to be clear, it's brackets in the subject header?
It's brackets in the subject header with the word important.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And then you can, and then your message will get through. But I just want to put a big asterisk next to that and explain to people that if you abuse that, you will get suspended, right? It's not a matter of will you or will you not. You will get suspended. Because
you've seen that before.
Because Amazon is looking to curb the number of emails that buyers get. When a buyer asks to stop getting emails, if they keep getting emails, what happens? The customer complains to Amazon. As soon as that happens, Amazon's going to go and they're going to look and they're going to say, okay, you added the bracket important to your email, forcing it through the system, which meant you were knowingly violating Amazon's terms of service.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. So it's definitely a question a lot of sellers have, and something that a lot of sellers are trying to figure out, because it's a new normal, right? We've got a new normal, and the new normal is that not as many messages are going through. The new normal is that your subject line is critically important. The message, because the subject line is going to determine whether it's opened or not, right?
Yep.
And I know as internet marketers, that's what we look at. We look at open rate, and then we look at click rate. Amazon made another change because they just love making changes. The other change was that they added a pop-up window that now puts up a warning so that if you want to track click rate, you can't do it anymore. And so we can track open rate, but we can't track click rate. And as a seller, you actually have the ability to override that. But the warning to all sellers is that, I mean, it's a big, like, warning box. Have you ever gotten one of those warnings that says, like, you are about to leave this site,
Yep.
click this box? That's what pops up. Because the only way to track a click-through rate is for that click-through to go through a URL redirect. And that URL redirect is then identified by Amazon, and Amazon then throws up that warning.
Can we see the open rates for these messages now?
Yeah, so we can look at, let's look at your general. So you click on the tab, go into analytics.
Okay.
And
what is a good open rate?
So I think that, I mean, it's all going to be relative to your messages. I mean, yours is definitely and we're looking at, we can scale it out to 1 month. And so here's where you would set up. So here's a benchmark. So your open rate is about 13%. The benchmark that we're getting from, you know, the system overall is 37. So,
wow.
So you have some days that are good.
None are above the benchmark except for one.
Right. And so we obviously don't have click
Obviously,
rate.
we want to be above average.
And so that's where I would start focusing on your subject line. Now, this is going to show you the number of emails that you sent, how many were opened, and how many unsubscribes occurred during that period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're at about 10%. So you obviously have room for improvement. I think that two things are going to give you that improvement. I think one is going back to what we said, like lining up your dates of your emails, right? Because they got an email from you on day 2 and they got an email from you on day 5, and they both said, "So what do you think?" Right? So that's going to definitely be a help. I think the second is that if you are giving them value, their desire to want to open that email increases significantly.
So value in the first email and then the ask in the second email?
Yes. So that's
what. Do you have any templates that you guys have on the blog that I can take a look at that are just best practices and have shown to be a very high open rate, subject lines and the content body? So
we don't, because everything is so unique to individual accounts and customers, it's hard for us to actually have, like, we have templates, but our templates lack personality, right? And so what I would say is that, like, our templates are there to help you get started, but you have to add the personality to the template. Like you said, like, you have to know the persona of your buyer. You have to know what you're trying to accomplish, and you have to spend some time writing that email so that it connects with the buyer who bought your product. Mm-hmm. And remember that buyer probably has, if they're anything like me, they have 7 to 8 boxes from Amazon coming to them every week, right? Which means they're getting all of these emails that are coming through to them as well. Amazon is sending emails, right? Amazon sends retargeting emails. Amazon sends all these different types of emails. And so as a buyer, you're inundated, and that's where you have to create that connection. Mm-hmm. That's what it's about. And if you have a very generic product, it's hard to make that connection. If you have a product that requires some extra effort, right? Like how to install a vacuum filter, or coffee is something people are passionate about, you have an ability to create a connection between your brand and the customer, and to start curating that brand so that customer wants to now do something to help you. Yeah, like on our own website email lists, we put out amazing email with great copy. Yep. That has a personality. We just haven't been focusing on this aspect of it on Amazon. And I think that, for lack of a better term, because 6 months ago it was easy, right? You were sending your emails to, let's say 50%, more people, and the number of reviews were flowing in. As your pool of who you can email to decreases, the quality of your content needs to get better, so that those people want to engage with you. One other thing that you might want to consider, let's go back into the capsules. So we have the ability within the message. We have the ability within the message and the advanced filters to do a couple of things. One, do you ever look at your orders for general sales versus business sales, Amazon Business? Yeah, we do. Okay. So if you have a product that has a lot of Amazon business sales, you can actually create an email specific to Amazon business or one that's specific to orders.
That's great.
And what you would do, again, is you would set it up for the same ASINs on the same delivery date. One would just be for business orders and one would just be for standard orders. And then you can talk to a business in a different way than you would talk to
of course,
a customer. The other
and we actually updated our pricing for business for Amazon Business, and we give a 5% off. And then as they buy more, we give them more discounts for volume.
Right. The other thing that you can do is, and you already have this turned on, you can skip if the buyer has initiated a return. So now you're doing this 2 days after the purchase. So but it's 7 days after the purchase. If they've already started a return, the sale will actually, the emails will actually stop so that you don't send it to somebody who is returning your product. If the final thing that you can look at, and this is like, you've got other things to fix, so I wouldn't spend your time on this right now, but you can actually create a series of messages for somebody who buys your product multiple times. And so you can say like, okay, I now know that you have bought these capsules 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, and I'm going to deliver you different content because I know that I know that you're now engaged with my brand to a further extent.
So can I give the 2-time buyer that's bought twice from us, can I give them the coupon code that brings them to Amazon, or an Amazon coupon code?
So technically, Amazon's rules state that you cannot do any marketing, promotions, or couponing within the email.
Good to know.
Yeah. But what you can say is like, we appreciate you being a loyal customer. We know you've purchased from us before. It's loyal customers like you that help our business thrive and grow. And then you can ask for the review. And as they buy from you more and more, their desire to want to help you gets stronger and stronger.
So before Amazon made these changes, I heard through the grapevine that roughly 3% of buyers on Amazon leave seller feedback.
Okay.
That was prior to the changes. Is that still true?
Yeah. So seller, you know what? I'd be totally honest. I haven't looked at those stats in a while. Those are probably stats we need to run, and we can follow up with a blog article around what we're seeing for the amount. But typically 1 to 3% is the number we've always quoted for seller feedback. And reviews are going to be somewhere in the 3 to 10% range, depending on the quality of your product. Now, the higher price your product is, the greater chance you have to get a review, because when people spend more money, they have a tighter connection to what they're doing.
More on the line.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. So I think
anything else that you can share with me?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've thrown a lot at you.
We have a lot to do.
Yeah, I think I've thrown a lot at you.
Have a lot to do.
Yeah, and maybe what we'll do is I can help get your VAs to what we need to do, and then we can come back on and kind of talk about the changes that have occurred.
We can do a case study.
Yeah, exactly. So
before and after.
If we didn't answer a question that you have specific to Feedback Genius, go ahead and leave it in the comments below, and we will try to come in and answer those questions. Thank you guys for attending. We're live at the not the Prosper Show. Hey, shout out to James there, right? We are live at the Retail Global Show in Las Vegas, and happy to share this content with you guys. So
thanks for doing this. This is awesome. Thank you, everybody.